Hey guys, this is Substitute Topher. This week I've been driving the 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid, Toyota's newest entry to their hybridized crossover lineup. Under the hood of this Corolla Cross Hybrid is a 2-liter Atkinson Cycle 4-cylinder engine. It makes 196 combined horsepower and 214 pound-feet of torque. Power is sent to all 4 wheels via a CVT. We're going to walk you around this Corolla Cross Hybrid, talk about what it's been like to live with this week, and of course, we will take it for a drive. But before that, let's hop out and show you what this thing looks like on the outside. So, quite a unique color on this Corolla Cross Hybrid. I wanted to make sure I paired the correct lighting to show off what Toyota calls acidic blast. I'm not going to make a joke about what they've called this car, but I'll let you kind of think of that yourself. But honestly, I think it kind of complements this thing in its kind of funky, small crossover segment that this car is in. We've also got a black roof on this car, and being that this is the hybrid, I think it kind of solves some of the issues that we had with just the regular Corolla Cross. When that car was released last year, I didn't quite understand it. I didn't really like driving it, and I emerged from the experience thinking they need to make this a hybrid. We need a little bit more power, a little bit more torque, and thankfully they've come out with this. We all knew it was happening, but it was just a matter of time before we actually had it in front of us. So how much more power and torque do you have in the hybrid over the regular ICE only Corolla Cross? Well, you have about 30 more horsepower and about 50 more pound-feet of torque, which means this thing can get from 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds, which is nice to have in something like this. It's actually able to get out of its own way. I've been living with this thing all week, and honestly, when I first got into it, I was not expecting to like it at all. But I have actually grown to really kind of enjoy driving this thing, daily driving it, and that is sort of the point of all the cars in this segment. We'll talk about what I like about it once we get out onto the road, but I want to talk about some logistical things about Toyota's lineup. So this slots between the regular Corolla, of course they call it the Corolla Cross, so it's kind of just a lifted Corolla, between the Corolla and the RAV4. However, it's actually shorter in length and wheelbase than a regular Corolla. However, it is taller and wider, and you have more interior space. So, with that being said, it's about $4,000 more expensive than a regular Corolla hybrid, but it's about $4,000 cheaper than a RAV4 hybrid, and this is base model to base model. So it does slot perfectly in between. So the question is, does it make sense, and should you have it? Well, I'll give you a tour of the exterior, we'll take it for a drive, and then we shall decide its fate and if it deserves a spot in Toyota's lineup. This is an XSE, this is a top trim Corolla Cross, so we have things like leather seats, a leather steering wheel, a JBL sound system, and more. We'll take a look back here. Our load space is slightly higher because this is the hybrid, so our hybrid battery has to live somewhere, and it does live under the floor here. No spare tire in this Corolla Cross, just a big piece of foam, and you can see some very scary orange wiring down there for our hybrid battery. So we'll put this back, but all we get is a goop kit. So if you have a flat tire or anything, you better make sure you have AAA, or just make yourself comfortable with using a tire inflator and a goop kit. But in this little bag here, we have a cargo net, which is actually placed in quite an okay spot, and you can of course detach this if you'd like. We also have a privacy cover that pulls out, and we'll go ahead and fold these seats down as well because there is actually quite a bit of usable space here in the Corolla Cross. My girlfriend got a new couch at her house this week, and we had all of the massive boxes that the couch came in just sitting at her house, and I was able to break them down and fit them into the Corolla Cross, and I'll insert a clip of that. I had no intentions of doing that initially, but I thought, hey, why don't we try it? And sure enough, they all fit, so you don't need a pickup truck. Just use your little Toyota Corolla Cross. So with these down, it's not a perfectly flat load surface, but you can see there is really a decent amount of room back here, and I see this as the biggest advantage, obviously, to having the Corolla Cross over the regular Corolla, because you just have more interior room. And standard all-wheel drive here on the hybrid. And also, as you saw there's a little bit of touch there from the back seats onto the front seats when they are in their normal seating positions. I'm 5'11", and the seats are kind of perfectly matched, so the back seats hit when they fold down, but that's just kind of what you get with some of these smaller crossovers. Let's take a look at rear seat legroom. Again, I am 5'11", Sat behind myself, I feel like I have a pretty good amount of room back here. I've got a couple inches in front of me here, and the biggest advantage here, of course, is headroom. I have a pretty good amount here. You've got a little indentation here. Of course, we have a sunroof on this car, so a little bit more gear in the headliner than you'd have with a car without a sunroof, but I do have room back here, and I actually feel quite all right. You've got a cup holder here on the door panel, and we also have fold down armrest, splits here in the middle, 2 cup holders there, so a total of 4 cup holders in the back. We've also got some USB-C ports down there. No full climate control back here, but I wouldn't really expect it for a car like this, but we do at least have some vents that you can aim at yourself, so that is nice. With this XSE trim, we have some leather seats with cloth inserts. I think that looks pretty decent, adds some dimension here to our interior. And we also have a bit of stitching here on our door panels, though it is fake because this is very clearly plastic. Let's take a look here at the front. Pretty standard Toyota layout here. Looks just like a Corolla or a RAV4. And before we hop up there, let's take a look under the hood at that 2-liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine. A little hood release there. I appreciate that the beeps letting me know that the key is in my pocket are not so loud that they deafen you. That's really polite. There we go. No hood struts here, but as you can see, there is our 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. No sort of beauty cover or anything. It's all just honest. 0W16 oil. Interesting. Let's see our little sticker for that there. Okay, cool. Overall styling on this car, I think it is safe, and it kind of just looks like any other SUV. Not necessarily saying that in a bad way. It's a non-offensive design, but they've spiced it up a bit with painting it in acidic blast with this particular car. Up front, pretty generic, basic Toyota interior. Like I said earlier, nothing really special in here. Of course, we have power seats here with lumbar on the XSE trim. We've got a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and this one has a moonroof as well. We'll grab our Monroney here and take a look at some of our options on this particular car. Starting price on this high trim XSE is $31 grand, and as spec, this car is $36,158. So it is a little bit pricey as far as Corolla crosses go. The base price for a hybrid is $27,000, so this is about $9 grand more than a base car would be. But with this and the options that you have on this particular car that take you from 31 to 36, we have the moonroof. We have our JBL 9-speaker sound system, which we will test out here on this review. I think it's actually pretty good. We have adaptive headlights, the 2-tone exterior color, meaning our black roof. That's a $500 option. Floor mats. We have the frameless mirror with home link, and we have mud guards outside as well. Pre-destination $34,823 with destination $36,158. Combined fuel economy on this Corolla Cross, 42, and well, I would say that's just about accurate. I've been seeing anywhere from 40 to 50 this week on my trip average that resets every time you start the car. So let's go ahead and put this back in the glove box. Up here, again, it's very simple. It's very much just Corolla. They haven't really changed much from just the standard small Corolla that we've known and loved for years and years. We have heated seats here in this car with 2 different settings. I imagine you have an option for a heated steering wheel, which is why this switch is blank here in this particular car. And we have Toyota's newest infotainment here in a smaller configuration, but it still works great. I've been a big fan of this infotainment ever since we saw it for the first time on the Lexus NX, the Toyota Tundra, Sequoia, all of those vehicles. It's nice to see they're finally implementing it into some of these smaller crossovers in cars. We've got wireless Apple CarPlay. As you can see, pretty nice display here. And this is a Google system, so this is essentially Google Maps here when you are on your maps. You can see my history, been about 40 mpg. These are our other settings in here. Not too much. I like that this is a simple infotainment system. It's easy and it just works really nicely. We still have a physical climate control panel here in the Corolla Cross. We have an option to eco, heat, and cool, but it doesn't make the AC cold enough, in my opinion, so I usually turn that off. Electronic parking brake, we've got auto hold here in this car, and we have 3 different drive modes: sport, normal, and eco. We'll start today in normal mode. We'll turn it up to sport once we are out on the loop and going around some corners. But I think that just about wraps it up for an interior tour. Got a black headliner. I mean, there's really not too much up here. So let's go ahead and take this Corolla Cross out on the road, and we'll talk about what it's been like to live with this week. What I will say is that I started this week with a full tank of fuel, and I still have 2 bars left, 88 miles to E, and I've been driving this thing pretty much all week. We also had a BMW 7 Series, and I kind of just elected to drive this because I wanted to spend a bit more time in this car. I'm less familiar with it, but also I really genuinely just liked driving it. And straight away, one of my favorite things about this car is the light steering. I mean, it's effortlessly light, and I appreciate that for cars like this because I don't need crazy steering feel when I'm driving a Corolla Cross. That's not really something that's important to me. So I'd rather have the car be easy to steer, and this one has very light steering. The only bad side of that is it is kind of vague at high speeds, but we'll forgive it because, I mean, you're not really doing any high-speed cornering in this car unless you are the TheTopher, and this is a channel for the TheTopher, so of course we'll do some high-speed cornering today and see how this thing handles. But overall, as a daily driver, it's done the job well, and I've transported multiple people in this car. Everyone's had plenty of room. I've gotten groceries in the car. It's done great, and really no complaints. I mean, the only complaint that I would have, and it isn't really a complaint because it's subjective, is just how expensive this car is. And when you kind of compare it to some of the competition, like the Mazda CX-30, it just kind of falls a little bit short with some of the materials inside and some of the driving dynamics and everything. You don't feel like it is quite up to that standard of a high-end feel inside. But it does feel quintessential Toyota, and well, there's not really anything wrong with that. I guess another thing I'll add, brake pedal feel isn't great, but it's not necessarily any different than a regular, any other Toyota hybrid, I should say. Oh, and another thing, it is a little bit loud in here, and being that this is a Toyota hybrid, of course we have a CVT, it revs itself out pretty high, and it makes quite a bit of noise. So maybe a little bit more sound deadening could solve that, and I would kind of expect that for 36 grand, maybe I would be getting a little bit more sound deadening. That's just my opinion. You can hear it whirring away there, but that is an honest CVT. No fake or simulated shifts. It just does the thing. It does the job, and it gets up to speed quick enough. 214 combined pound-feet of torque. It scoots itself out of the way. This thing weighs about 3,100 pounds, so not a horrible power to weight for something in this class. Once you actually get up to speed though, cruising here at about 60, it is pretty quiet. I mean, it's quiet enough for something in this class, especially something that stands so tall above just a regular Corolla. It's peculiar though to me that this is actually shorter than a Corolla. It's like they took a Corolla and pinched it by the skin on the back of its neck and just kind of pulled it up a little bit. It's basically what this car is. Ooh, let's quickly go into sport for this corner. Steering a bit out of there. It's no performance car, but as you can see there, it's got enough torque to get out of its own way once you exit the corner. So I'm honestly not mad at the powertrain, and I'm not mad at the amount of power that they've given this car. It does seem decently appropriate. There is quite a bit of body roll, of course. We'll leave it in sport. Obviously that doesn't affect the suspension, but this is our rough ride section up here. So we'll talk a bit about the ride once we go over some of these bumps. Yeah, they've got this thing dialed in super well. It's a very cozy ride, and we have enough squish in those sidewalls to not have a crashy ride experience in this Corolla Cross. let's stop and we'll see how it gets off the line. Not going to brake torque it or anything because CVTs generally don't like that, but we'll just give it some throttle, see how fast it accelerates. And that seems about 7 to 8 seconds. I would say that that is pretty accurate. Not a bad amount of power. If you feel like having simulated gear shifts, you can put yourself over into sport mode and use the paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel. They don't really do anything, so I haven't been using them because I don't really see the purpose with the CVT. But if you want to do some spirited driving and get some good downshifts, then you are able to do so with the paddles, or you can use the little slap shift down here on our traditional mechanical shifter. That lady saw me cooking around the corner. Oh my goodness. The little acidic blast. Squealing tires. That's probably a pretty funny sight. While we're stopped here, let's go ahead and cue up our sound system test song and test out this JBL 9 speaker sound system. I think that this sounds a little bit better than the one that you get in just the regular Corolla. In my opinion, I don't really, it feels like it has a little bit more depth, a little bit more power, and you can see that subwoofer back there in the trunk. So let's go ahead and turn on the traditional TOPher sound system test song, see how it sounds. And we'll hit this entrance ramp, of course. Oh yeah, a lot of understeer. So overall, honestly, a pretty decent performance. I'd give it somewhere in the B range, I would say. As in, you know, on a grading scale, I would say that it's about a B. Pretty good power, pretty good detail, and for a car in this class, I would say that it sounds pretty dang good. Let's go back to our Toyota infotainment, and let's talk about what we have for driver aids. Well, we have pretty much the full suite here. We have the pre-collision assist, we have all of our different adaptive cruise control, lane centering, all of that stuff, lane tracing, sorry, as Toyota likes to call it. The only thing I'll say is that these kind of can get confusing here in the way that they're placed. You only have to press this button once here on the upper left-hand side, and it kind of just activates everything, which is great, but then you also have this button here for your cruise control mode, and then you have the mode button down here. Oh, and it's braking because it thinks that that person is stopping in front of me. So it's a little bit confusing with all of this going on here all at once, but honestly, after you do it a couple times, it's really not that big of a deal. So I've gotten used to it pretty quickly. We'll go around this roundabout and we'll show you this this lane keep, see how it does. Prepare for some tire squeal. Yeah. Very front-wheel drive biased, of course. Okay, let's go back into normal mode, and we will get this cruise control going. We have lane centering on. So this will do a pretty good job kind of left to its own, you know, kind of letting the car figure things out. And it'll let you go for a little bit, and then it asks you kindly to put your hands back on the steering wheel. Yeah, lane tracing unavailable. So it does a pretty good job. You can raise and lower your speed there with these buttons. It does a pretty good job. No real complaints there. down into EV mode, doing some regen here under braking. There we go, a little bit cleaner through there that time, less tire squeal. And getting out of our own way on the exit. But overall, guys, I don't really have anything super negative to say about this car. It is simply an car, and that isn't always a bad thing. Another reason I've kind of elected to drive this thing this week is it's just a low-stress driving experience. You get an $150,000 BMW 7 Series, and you worry about every little thing while you're driving and parking and whatever else, but with this Corolla Cross, you just get in it and go wherever you want, and I really like that with cars, and this is a pretty solid daily driver, and I would certainly recommend this car to somebody. It does the car duties right. It has nothing extra. I mean, there's nothing overwhelming in here. There's nothing hard to use. It's very simple, straightforward, and it's a bit expensive, so I don't know that I would say go all the way crazy with the XSE, but if you want to save $4,000 off of RAV4, this does pretty much everything the RAV4 does. It's just a little bit smaller, but I mean, I could see getting this over a RAV4 if you don't need the RAV4. I mean, you've got plenty of room in the back, you've got plenty of cargo space, you've got plenty of headroom here in the Corolla Cross. I mean, this is basically the size that the RAV4 used to be. Car companies always do this thing where they just keep making cars bigger and bigger and bigger until they have to reintroduce an entirely new model below the one that already exists to continue making a car that size, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, I think, with the Corolla Cross. So overall here, a pretty good offering from Toyota. Very unapologetically Toyota, as you can see. They're not really trying out anything new or crazy, but this is one of those cars you can just buy, drive forever, and it'll just work. I mean, it's that's what it's built to do. Go 400,000 miles with oil changes, tires, and brakes, and well, you'll be just fine here. And even with all of that spirited driving, 27.2 mpg average there on our review, so pretty efficient thing as well. I would certainly believe that 42 mpg combined figure that the EPA has gotten. We have a button here for EV mode you can use as well, but these Toyotas, they let you put the car into EV mode, but then it like shuts off at 15, or maybe it's 20, maybe it's 25 actually. Oh, this is letting me go as, oh, okay, it shut off at 28. So you have EV mode if you want to just kind of push the car to stay in EV mode a little bit longer than it defaults. You can hear it kind of making that whirring noise as well. This is my favorite part about this car, is just the easy maneuverability. It's a good size, the steering's a great weight. The shifter is easy and straightforward. You're not searching for gears with some weird electronic thing that won't let you move. So, good straightforward car from Toyota. Wouldn't expect anything else. So that'll just about wrap it up for us today. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Corolla Cross. Is it worth it? Would you have it over either a Corolla or a RAV4? Is it worthy to sit in the middle? I think it is. I think that it kind of just takes up a space that was left behind by older RAV4s. So, not so bad, pretty good. Cool. Well, that'll do it for our review here on the Corolla Cross Hybrid. Hope you all enjoyed. We'll do one last walk around and then we will wrap it up for today. I'm sure as time goes on, we'll see a plug-in hybrid version of this car, maybe. Corolla, what would it be? The Toyota Corolla Cross Prime. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that, maybe even a full EV at some point, but this seems to kind of be the future. But at least Toyota is still holding out with their no boring cars philosophy. They still have some exciting cars in the lineup, GR Corolla, Supra, GR86, all of those things. So we haven't fully lost them yet, but if you just need a car to do car things, the Corolla Cross Hybrid is here for you. And if you want to be eccentric, you can have it in Acidic Blast. So that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.